Actually, we even have an in-person quorum.
Very impressive.
Is Tommy Quinn a member of the public, or is he may be? I think Kevin Broadhurst is on leave for the month. I think for the month, so it's possible it's a it's possible maybe it's somebody for conference.
Noran might be doing it too.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're at the witching hour here. Since we have a quorum, we'll go ahead and get started. Meeting is called to order. Do we have any public comment? Either nobody here in person, but do we have anybody remotely from public who wants to make a comment? I received the name Tommy Quinn. Are you from the public or?
He's muted.
No?
He's muted.
Muted, yeah. All right. No, since nobody has identified themselves, that'll bring us to the. Oh, Tommy Quinn. He's here from the. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate it, Tom. All right. Anyway, that brings us to the chair's update. Anyhow, well, since we're talking about attendance, we've got right now we have 6 in person, and Jackie at home in Arlington has a medical excuse. Andrea Wingo let me know she would not be able to attend. So, what the record reflect, we have an in-person quorum and 7 total at this point, and I'm not giving up. I'm getting maybe 1 or 2, maybe 1 more. Do we have any volunteers to take the minutes for this? No volunteers?
I'll do my best.
Okay, all right.
I
Okay, all right. I know. I appreciate you helping, providing your notes to John, and I think, and you basically edited Gary's, right?
Yeah.
So
I incorporated yours into Gary's.
And so Gary was our first official minute taker, and he did a good job. And I think you two both added to it, so I think it was pretty good. We'll get to the minutes a little bit later on. Let's see. Okay, reporting back as anticipated. John and I have been appointed vice chair and chair for 2023 by the county board earlier this month. So you got us for a little bit longer here. And the Tech Commission's new board liaison is Vice Chair Libby Garvey. So they've done some rotation on liaisons. So this is a return engagement for Libby, and we're looking to meet with her to update her on what we're doing recently. So so we will keep you posted. Earlier this month, John and I participated in the County Managers Commission chair session on the fiscal year budget. The shortfall was reported as we had anticipated in the $20 to $30 million range. And John reported for the Tech Commission on the issues that we discussed and priorities that we discussed at last month's meeting, and it's as outlined in the draft letter. And John and I plan to participate in the commission chair. Oh, sorry. Okay. We're at the front, the entrance, I guess, facing the outdoor parking lot, right? And okay. Norrin, Richard is gonna come try to find you.
It's across from the theater, where the theater is across from the theater.
Yeah. Oh, you can come in that side, or I think they have a door in the front too. Oh, that was locked? Yeah. Okay, because I thought they were supposed to, well,
Maybe they did, I don't know. I just usually it's locked.
okay. Okay, so the commission chair orientation session will be on Monday, January 30th, and they're gonna sort of give us update on fiscal year 24 budget procedures and more on the electronic meeting regs and just a general sort of house cleaning. So we will let you know if we learn anything new there. And then we still have 3 vacancies, have not received any applications, but we will follow up with Libby Garvey and her assistant, Kathy O'Malley, to see if they've received any and see if they know of anybody who might be interested in.
Do they promote it? Announce it at the county board meeting?
I don't know. They could. I mean, that's
Sorry, what was the?
Promoting the fact that we have vacancies. I'm not sure if it's evident on the website yet, but I think that's something we're working with Angela to try to get, some.
I believe
The vacancies.
I believe they've added a new section to the website for all the commissions that indicate that where there are vacancies. This is part of trying to show better transparency for committees.
Yeah, I saw that section too, Jackie. And last time I looked, the vacancies weren't maybe official yet, so we didn't have any listed, but that's a good point. They do have that now on the website, so.
Okay, good. Well, anyhow, if you know of anybody who might be a good fit, please have them file an application through the portal in the website. And like I said, we'll try to see what we can do in that vein. But like I said, anybody knows of anybody who'd be a good fit, please encourage them to apply. I think that brings us to our I'll take any questions now, but otherwise brings us to item number 4, FY24 budget letter discussion. And thank you, John. Good job on drafting that up.
Just before we get to that.
Sure.
Is there any progress at all on our suggestion that more meetings be allowed to be virtual?
It was included in the legislative priorities that the board approved for the Virginia legislative delegation. So the board has affirmed that it is the stance of the Arlington County government that more virtual meetings should be allowed.
And we understand other jurisdictions have also pushed for that. So
I have an update.
Oh, do you? Okay, good.
There are both House and Senate bills that have been introduced to allow almost all commissions to go fully virtual. The exception is professional licensing and permitting, like Board of Zoning Appeals.
Right.
Now, those have been introduced.
Right.
They're working their way through. If you look at the legislative website, you can look at the proposed amendments to FOIA, because the Open Meetings Act falls under FOIA, so the rules for this fall under FOIA.
Right.
But it has been introduced on both sides, lots of sponsors, it's there. So it's being negotiated as we speak, and we will see how it moves eventually.
All right, well, good. That's good news. Good update. So yeah, we're trying. It's out of our hands now. All right, think, one, on the budget priority number 4, in order, the creating a government-wide privacy program.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ought to perhaps be even more specific, saying that there may be, I mean, it's obviously going to require, yes, some staffing, and whether there should be one single,
Yes. Why don't I share the document?
Okay, yeah, that'd be good. Helpful.
So just to introduce this, we sent it around. This was my attempt to synthesize the discussion that we had in the last meeting about what our recommended priorities were, trying to keep it short and sweet. And obviously, one of the difficulties we have is the level of granularity we have or don't have on IT spending in the government. It's hard for us to make more targeted recommendations. So I tried to keep it general themed and more, this is what our recommendations are to the board and to the manager about how to negotiate navigate the budget shortfall. And
Can you show that particular question? Because I do think there could be more detail on that. That is item.
that was
item 3.
item 3, right? So
if you want to take the other items before you get there, I do have a comment on that.
Sure. So I broke it out into priorities for the budget and then more general recommendations about how to navigate the budget constraints. Because one of the things that the manager asked for was recommendations on how to deal with the shortfall. And so there are specific budget priorities that I think we have, which are about the things we don't want them to cut. And then there were kind of thoughts about how to navigate the budget constraint without raising taxes, which is the guidance that the board gave to the manager, was to propose a budget that didn't require an increase in the tax rate. The board may decide not to go along with that or do something, but that's the guidance that was given to the manager. So I thought our priorities, and this is my interpretation of our discussion, so just a starting place for the conversation, were cybersecurity, the cloud transition, digital transformation generally, and then the creation of a privacy program, right? The first 3 are ongoing activities, and we didn't want them to stop on highly valuable ongoing activities. And then number 4 is really the thing that they're not doing today that we think is the highest priority thing to start. So that's and I kind of left it off at there. If we were in a different budget situation where we had more money to spend and it was like, where are we going to make new investments kind of conversation, I might have had a longer list. But that's kind of how I thought about that. And then recommendations for navigating the budget constraint. Our number 1 recommendation is, I raised this with the manager when he asked for our feedback, the fact that we don't have a strategic plan for information technology, and that this is a perfect example of where such a plan would be valuable to staff, right?
So that strategic plan is done.
So I want to make sure that we're not talking cross purposes, because our recommendation as a strategic plan for the entire government that's endorsed by the board.
Gotcha.
Right, where you understand you have a DTS strategic plan,
Yeah.
and that's
Talking a higher level one.
this is
A
right.
comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
community input that covers all the subjects countywide, far beyond the.
Right.
Yeah, consistent with the planning elements, I think.
Such as not
They have the
exist.
spokes, they have planning element for transportation, and so the Brood we've advocated for adding one for technology.
And John, you might need to make that point so that that's clear. That is actually the same point that I want to make on the spending, and that is that they act as if technology is DTS, and DTS is actually in the budget, and in even the direct management is a fraction of the total.
Right. I tried to say that on point 3, right, where I went to Arlington Wallet and I said, what's the departmental spend of DTS? And this was 21-22 actual. It was 2.4% of the overall budget, which is tiny. But we know from conversations that there's a lot of IT spending that happens outside of DTS.
I think it isn't just that we know that, it is intentionally distributed. Part of the structure is that technology spending is distributed, not centralized. So, by structure.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, Jackie, the point you're making is that the recommendation for the comprehensive plan element or county level planning, strategic plan for IT is important specifically because there is such a federated approach
Yes.
to managing.
Yes. And that point, if it's made clearly under the strategic plan, the item on budget is supportive of that. And that is to make it clear what we have is a decentralized technology services, and DTS is only a fraction of those. And so if you try to look at technology writ large and you only look at DTS, you're not looking at, you're not looking at technology.
Well, I would say a proper comprehensive plan would include rationalization for the federated approach that we have.
Well, and yes, it needs to include them, and certainly it needs to look at, pros and cons of that method. I mean, it should be strategic on what's centralized and what isn't.
Do we have any?
By the way, John, excellent letter.
Write that plan.
So we have sent a couple letters to the board on our recommendations around strategic planning elements. We can rehash them. They have them. If they want to look at them, we're happy to talk about them. I think it is referencing the fact that we've made this in the past and that here is yet another example of why this.
No, I get all that. I'm just saying that if they suddenly, there was a burst of collective insight and they agreed to put such a plan together.
So it would need to be done with deliberation. There was an effort about, what, a year and a half, 2 years ago now.
The energy plan.
No, the broadband.
Oh,
State broadband plan, which was not successful, at least from our point of view, because a proper environment was not there for community input, I guess, to put it charitably. And the representatives that we sent resigned.
Yeah, you're talking about this was the manager's committee.
Yeah,
Yes.
So the manager wrote that plan.
staff wrote that plan, the manager endorsed it. We received a copy of it. We read it, we critiqued it, and we reiterated our suggestion that a broader community-based comprehensive planning element that was endorsed by the board be put forward.
So in addition to having community input, should there be other hands on the creation of the document?
Almost certainly, right? The last comprehensive planning element that got put forward was the energy plan.
Right.
And that involved consultants and many different stakeholders from around the community and thought leaders on that particular issue, and a extensive community engagement and feedback.
So would it be wrong to include a sentence to that effect, that the model we have in mind for creating such a plan would resemble that of the energy plan plus more input or something? I mean, you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. So just for historical purposes, and we can talk about what we do to go.
We have a verb and we don't have a subject.
Right. When we critiqued the manager's plan, and I don't know that it was ever actually published. I think we got a copy through the side door. We made the point that while a comprehensive plan element is a huge lift, we think it'd be valuable, but it's not the only way to solve this problem. And so we didn't want to tell the board that this is the only way to solve this problem, is a comprehensive plan element. One of the things that that is driving this is the legislature actually updated the law talking about what comprehensive plans should cover. And they added a new element talking about the provision of broadband services. And it says, in the law, it says shall, right? And not may, it says shall.
Yeah.
And I went back and I looked at the legislative history on the bill. The only amendment suggested to the bill was to change may to shall, or from to shall to may, and it failed. So we know that the legislature specifically considered that question and said, no, you shall consider broadband.
And this is a Virginia, so this is a Virginia level
Right.
um,
Statute.
requirement. Yes, yes.
As far as I
But
know,
let me also point out that,
and all
um,
details about who would do
Yes.
it and whether or not outside
That's correct.
consultants would be required. I'm not sure that that's true.
hello?
None of that has been worked out, nor is there even a forum for talking about it.
Yeah, so
Okay,
Jackie's
Jackie,
trying
can
to-
we hear
Jackie?
I'm looking for a hand. There it is.
Okay.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yes, okay.
Okay, yes. Yes, my comment is that another way, in fact, a step towards that isn't the full thing, would be if they structured the budget so that you could see all technology services reflected in the budget broken out. And you may recall this has been an issue of mine where I believe that it could be they could add a code for technology services so that they could sort on that and provide basically an overlay of technology services and where they are, and include that in the CIP, both the operational budget and the CIP. And as soon as you see that, you'll see how much funding it is and how distributed it is and why you need it to be in a comprehensive plan. Because right now it's all completely distributed. But what I'm saying is if they would do the steps to have the budget for technology transparent and easily identifiable, that would be the first step towards where do we have technology?
I would expand that from services to services and products.
Yeah.
Because you have specific products that are not a service, but it's technology based.
Yeah. And so our baseline was we didn't want to get into the false argument about whether a comprehensive plan element was worth it or not, which is I can sympathize and empathize with the county staff who may not want to take that challenge on. Because it's a big lift, right? But at the same time, we need to have a plan of some sort. And so it was more to the board to say, listen, let's get started. Let's move this forward.
Right, because energy was a multi-year process.
Energy was a multi-year process.
And I recognize there's a shortfall.
So,
And such a plan creation would require a budget.
Right.
In addition to multi-year,
Right.
so
multi-author process.
So it comes back to creating a strategic plan. I recognize in it that we've advised the county board of comprehensive plan element. The key for me is that it is a board endorsed set of, and I went to some of the other plan elements and the way they're structured is I stole the word, so principles, goals, objectives, and policies, right? The other plan elements have principles that are like, here's what we're trying, here's the principles that inform this plan. What are our goals? Those goals are broken down into sub-objectives. And what are the policies that we're implementing to achieve those goals and objectives? That. If it's a comprehensive plan element, great. If it's not, that's fine, right? But there needs to be a board action to direct these policies. Otherwise, we're left with what we have had, which is staff trying to make good judgment calls in specific situations that end up being, when you look across them, kind of disconnected and not aligned to strategic objectives. So I tried to address, Jackie, your point about the tying the connection from the need for the plan to the fact that we have such a federated approach to spending.
Yeah, take a look at the way you constructed the sentence, because it doesn't read. You may need to split that into two sentences. And maybe say most critical functions such a plan would address, you know, yeah. It's not just the spending, it's the functions, the spending and the functions are outside of DTS.
Delivery management,
Well, functions, I think they're really the, services, maybe technology services. It's the majority of information technology services and, funding happens outside of the Department of Technology Services. And you could just say, yeah, is outside of instead of happens outside of, but. Yeah. And then you don't have to say that again. I mean, then you can say the same thing down in budget. You could just say, so that it's clear that, it would be a first step. We need to have transparency, and the transparency would mean highlighting the total of technology spending, including distributed spending, and including the CIP. Because that's one of the confusions here, more so than in other areas. I think this is maybe even the primary area where this is happening, is that services that used to be contractual or may become CIP and vice versa, as the whole issue of how you get remote servers is changing from being capital to contractual, or maybe it's the other way around, of having and particularly as we're increasing the need for cloud storage, how we pay for that is changing. And who's paying? I mean, I don't know what is under DTS versus what is under, I don't know, Office of Budget and what they have, or anywhere else for that matter. I mean, we know we've had huge problems with, say, sign up for summer school and park programs because of their infrastructure, and it's not under DTS.
yep,
Could you go back to point number 1 there?
sure. Are you good on number 3, or do you have a proposed edit?
Yeah, it isn't just likely that it's higher. It is higher because it's distributed. I mean, it isn't just likely.
So you want to make that more?
Yeah.
Just strike likely.
Yeah. The government's total spending on yes, is much higher and distributed throughout departments.
And implied the information technologies, products and services, but
I think so.
Yeah.
Good on number 3?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, Mr. Cornfield has asked us to go to number 1 next. While the Department of Technology Services represents only, and I got it up on the screen, Phil, if you want.
Oh, you don't. Point number 1.
Phil asked me to read number 3.
Yeah.
No worries. Do we actually need the last sentence since
It's impeding our stated function and our chartered function, which is to advise the board. So I kind of was thinking that we tie it back to that.
Okay.
Number 1, priority 1 or budget?
No, recommendation number 1.
Sure.
You've got services twice in the last sentence. Can you change the last word of the paragraph to purview?
Sorry, services is part of the name of the Department of Technology
Okay,
Services.
that's fine.
Capitalized.
That makes sense.
Thank you, Professor.
If we're moving that far, on point 4, where we say an initial investment, again, talking about privacy in this budget, are we referring here to the DTS budget or to the overall county?
The overall county budget. So would you like me to be the FY24 budget?
Because privacy shouldn't fall under DTS.
I concur. More specific. Eliminate confusion.
Generally, in the past, our comments have been about DTS, but I think this year we want to open that up
That's right.
from a more global view of Ogle County, especially since you've been challenged on this $20 or $30 million shortfall business.
Yep.
Can we talk about recommendation 2 for a minute?
Sure.
Given that we don't know given that there is no strategic plan and that there's a lack of transparency, how do we know what the strategic priorities are?
Well, I think we probably have one suggestion. We haven't taken a vote on it, but I think, I not being a whip counter or anything like that, I think we probably vote to cancel the Clarendon Innovation Zone and Safety Project as an example of something that to us seems like a distraction of staff's time and energy when they could be focusing on core.
So are you being diplomatic by not?
I am being diplomatic by not being specific.
Well, I don't know. We don't, I mean, technically the board hasn't reauthorized it and it's still going.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, the challenge, of course, is there's not a large fiscal impact from that project.
But we don't know, because if they continued it, we don't know the circumstances under which it's continued. And there was considerable staff time. And if staff time is, staff time is in part what is at risk with the budget.
Someone may also have a justification for why that's aligned with strategic priorities that we haven't heard or are unaware of. So the point I was trying to make here is that there's always stuff going on that's not aligned with strategic goals, and it's even harder to evaluate those things when you don't have a strategic plan.
True.
So I didn't want to get into specific because I feel like there's probably more than just that project happening that might not be kind of driving at strategic goals and objectives.
Yeah, definitely.
For example, with the Clarendon pilot.
If folks want to do it, I'll go. But I was hesitant.
I'd actually rather have us send a separate letter on that.
Yeah, I think in the context of the budget conversation where it's so big, I don't want to focus on that because I think it takes the focus off the majority of IT spending that happens outside of DTS.
Yeah, I would think we should make a just short, sweet note requesting a status update from
I think we had requested that. It was in the October minutes.
We did.
Yeah. And I'm sure Richard will update us on that.
Okay.
As he can
Maybe.
once our budget letter conversation.
Comment, in addition to just point blank asking for an update, can we specifically answer information on staff hours, since that's a topic that keeps coming up as being relevant?
I think we can.
I'd recommend doing that.
All right. And I believe we'll get invited to the work session.
Mm-hmm.
So
We have in the past,
it might be a topic that comes up in the work session.
and it might be something we can sort of also feel out with our board liaison.
Yeah.
Too.
And this is
Yeah, because really for the board liaison, the issue would be suggest that it might be something that the board might want to request an update on, since they authorized it till September and it's still going.
Yep.
Right, we're trying to arrange a meeting or virtual or otherwise, with our board liaison, just to sort of update her and let her update us on where the board is.
So does anyone want to make a motion or suggest an edit?
Can we read number 4? Just as we haven't done that.
For on record.
Number 4. Engage with the private sector and nonprofits on an innovation agenda to reduce operating costs and increase revenue. I think this is an area where we probably have common cause with economic development and the private sector and county operations.
And the bids too.
And the business improvement districts, where not all of the solutions need to come from inside the government, but there are opportunities for private-public partnerships to solve issues and improve service delivery of county services to the people who live, work, and play here, right? I think one of the challenges we've had in the past, or some current and former members of the commission have raised, is whether or not those projects are aligned with our economic and social policy goals, right? That are consistent with the community's values and principles. It has seemed to be a little ad hoc. There have been a couple non-disclosure agreements, proffered. I think I made the point, I don't have a problem with non-disclosure agreements, but where on the county website does it tell me, as a small business from Silicon Valley, who's a startup who wants to sell my wares to Arlington County, how I get someone's attention to get you to sign that in the first place so I can come show you my whiz-bang solution? There's no front door, right? So leveling the playing field, being explicit with industry about the types of problems we want to solve and the types of principles and values we'd like them to consider when designing their solutions. We've talked about privacy a lot, right? Sure, there's a lot of companies that would love to solve county government problems if they could just have access to all of our citizens' data, right? That's not a trade-off that I would recommend making. I don't think it's one that the commission would recommend making. So it's more about engaging with the private sector, but doing so in a way that's makes clear what our values and principles are, so that we attract the right partners in that space.
I think the first sentence might need a little wordsmithing there. Engage with private sector and nonprofits. Nonprofits are part of the private sector, potentially, right? So it's not and.
Yeah, I was struggling with that too, because private sector, typically when I read it, I feel like for-profit, but I didn't want to leave nonprofits out.
Yeah.
I thought another way.
I would to include nonprofits.
So
Yeah, just including nonprofits.
Right, increase economic activity results in increased revenue. That also helps close the budget gap.
Right, and a certain percentage of the DTS budget has been dedicated to sort of an innovation agenda, right? I mean, that's,
Yes.
and I
But
think
not public facing, kind of direct way, right? It's come all internally. Good ideas from within.
No, there are some public facing aspects, such as the public website. There's some of the things that the innovation team does do there for enhancements.
Okay. So are we suggesting that the county endorse more of that?
or at least continue it and not cut it
And then
back, I
if
think.
that's true, then do we need to say anything? They're already doing it.
I got the sense that we should, because our briefing from economic development, it was I got the feeling that we have this tax break for tech firms. And I feel like it needs to be more than that. I think we're leaving stuff on the table, but that's my opinion.
So do you want to say expand engagement with?
Yeah, I could do that. That work for you, Phil?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just looking at the 4 recommendations regarding the budget. the comprehensive plan arguably requires some explicit new money.
Well, you could redivert staff time from strategically aligned projects.
You could, if we can find out what they are.
Yeah.
Number two, that's a savings potentially, but you think it's de minimis, maybe.
I don't know.
We don't know. That's
Right. But also $32 million is a big number, but the overall budget is pretty large. So on a percentage basis,
Yeah.
a few
Well,
percent
and
here and there start to add up.
and again, since we're not looking at the distributed function,
Right.
my guess is that the places where we have duplication of function across departments could be significant.
Yeah.
We have lots of cases where people have gotten their own products and their own vendors to do things which, if they were coordinated or might have substantial economies.
Yep.
Sounds like you have a lot to say with the liaison.
Okay.
Fortunately, we've been saying it for a couple of years now. So
Now, we've also said besides
It'll be a
the
different-
economies,
know her well though.
Yeah.
sorry,
besides the economies, it's also the integration of resources. And actually, Libby was the chair. The last I remember, we had a meeting of all the commissioners when Libby was chairman of the board quite a while ago. And this was a topic that pretty much every commission brought up, was that the areas in their focus had databases and services that it would be beneficial to be able to link to other county systems, but they were all different standards and they were told, I'm sorry, we can't connect these things. And so it's, in an era of analytics, to have every hub on its own bottom when you're talking about vendors and databases is ridiculous.
One thing to think about, the VITA CDO is making an effort to create an environment where you can share data. There's agreements that will have to be in place, so the different jurisdictions throughout Virginia can share data with those agreements. So he has an effort working
On that.
Programs. He was recently appointed, I think, back in.
That's promising. So,
Phil, you
Well, I just, number four, I just don't know what you want the board to do with respect to the budget.
we were asked for strategies for how to do it, how to navigate it, and the point is that I think I'm trying to make is, don't just ask staff to cut, right? Think about how you can partner with the private sector. Maybe none of those things are close enough to maturity to impact this budget cycle, but it can impact future budget
Well,
cycles.
at bare minimum, we want to protect what we've already got going, right?
right. So I
But if
think we may
anything,
want to
nurture it.
Right.
To let it grow and we'll benefit from it.
Yeah.
That's,
Well, I hate to do this, but if you're looking for cost savings, the one I just mentioned, that is integration of services across departments, is another significant potential area. We just have no idea what it is.
Do you want to put something in here about that, Jackie?
Well, it is certainly one of the issues of having a distributed budget, is that you're not allowed to take advantage. You don't have the ability to take advantage of economies of scale across the full enterprise. And there certainly may be solutions that are more cost effective if they're done at an enterprise level than at a department level.
And then probably vice versa. Sometimes it's.
Well, yeah, it's both, but you need to look at it from both. Right now, we only have the ability to look at it one way. Well, not either way, really.
You know,
It's just, it's a thought. I mean, it's a really good letter, and this is just another, that's another, if I were the king of technology here, I'd be looking for those economies. But those don't get any one department more money. They only get more money for the budget as a whole.
Right.
So there's not a whole lot of incentive to look for those, except if someone said, well, we're going to cut your independent ability. And then they might say, well, who can we piggyback with?
Maybe adding a statement to number 3 that the increased transparency would likely identify places where you could create
Yes.
scale.
Yes.
Cross-
Potential for,
Right now, it's a criticism, and then you can say, with better visibility, we would be able to make recommendations regarding.
yeah, that would be good. Enterprise level economies.
Well, indeed, if we knew the entire comprehensive expenditure in IT, we have a much better judgment on whether or not we are on par with comparable communities, way ahead or way behind.
That's another good point.
Right now, we really don't know.
It's actually the fact that DTS doesn't even have visibility of some of these affects privacy, it affects security, it affects cost, it affects everything.
With all due respect, not having this information is not making us world-class.
That's right.
There's nothing we like more than being world-class, though.
We love
Here in Arlington. We're world-class.
It's not even necessarily centralizing. It's, better options even at the department level. If you're the head of a department that does something else, you don't necessarily have expertise in how to get the cheapest vendor for something you don't do.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
I like that change.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you.
I'll make a motion if you're ready to entertain it.
No one else has any comments or wants to talk about anything else?
I say declare victory.
Well, I'm
Frank?
not sure where to put this. I know that there's federal money for cybersecurity, which is being provided to the states, and then the states are supposed to turn around. And I believe Virginia is one of those states that almost every state put in for this bundle of money to basically, improve or, the administration, cybersecurity has been a real priority of this administration, and rightfully so. And I don't know if it's worth putting something and make sure that we take advantage of, money seeking to obtain money from other sources, where it's available either from Virginia or from the federal government.
We are very aware
Okay.
and actively chasing. The Commonwealth has not yet indicated what their intentions are.
As far as the rules and all, so yeah.
The manager did mention on our call that he had someone dedicated to seeking funding out of the infrastructure, the IIJA.
Right.
In response to another commissioner.
Yeah.
Um,
So I don't know, it's probably worth reiterating that. It sounds like but again, it's certainly, I think, worth working in here somewhere. I was thinking possibly one, but on the budget priority, because that's.
I was viewing the budget priorities as kind of like the section of like where we're saying don't cut.
Yeah.
That was like,
okay.
that was that conversation. It's like every commissioner
I know, it's
chair
supposed to
came
come
up
up
and
with
said,
something good.
don't cut this.
Yeah. I don't think Mark got too many suggestions for
Yeah,
cuts.
it was a list of all the things you're not allowed to cut, you're not allowed to touch. So I guess by process of elimination, if there's anything left after that,
Right.
that's who you cut.
Just one more thing, not to open a new can of worms, but are we optimized with respect to APS, the school's spending on IT? Is that?
That is a giant can of worms. My personal opinion is that there could be more efficiency through shared services, but as you're probably aware, there's two separately independently elected political governing bodies for Arlington County Public Schools and the county government.
Budget.
There are two budgets. There is a large amount of revenue sharing that happens, that goes out of Arlington County budget and gets transferred to the schools that makes up a large amount of their budget, but not all. And
Well, if I were the schools, I'd say get your own house in order first.
I think the schools would be a great customer for a broadband authority, that kind of thing. But I think those conversations are probably not.
They're great customers for Connect Arlington.
That's right. That's right. Probably not budget conversations. Because
You're
I
right.
think
It's one revenue
Man,
source, but
Right.
this famous divide of
yeah, I think
as they get how much.
there's a percentage
the decision.
there somewhere.
Right.
Yeah, the decision is really how much money are we going to give to schools, and then that's it for budget.
Well, and they will revisit that revenue sharing agreement at some point, but this is not the time. I say that as I was one of the primary authors of that revenue sharing agreement way a long time ago when I was doing it for the schools.
Well, thank you, Jackie. It's kept the peace quite nicely.
Yeah, well, yes, but it was a strategy for us to get maximum funding for APS.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Kevin.
So Frank, back to your point about seeking state,
Federal money.
federal.
Yeah,
Um,
and state Commonwealth money where
I think
it's
it,
available.
I think it warrants its own bullet.
Yeah.
But Richard says they're doing it. You're
Right.
So the timing is not right
Right.
at this moment.
Right.
So the flow of money has gone from the federal government as far as a notice of funding opportunity. The states have proposed their programs. The states have not yet received funds, nor have the states announced what they intend to do with those monies or what type of program we can apply for. We don't expect to see any of that until later this year, which is well beyond when these budget decisions have to be made. So I'm separating the IIJ grant funding from our budget conversations. It's just too far in the future.
Right. We're silent altogether on the whole issue of a broadband authority and what that, and I think rightfully so at this point. But again, there's monies in theory out there for that. Again.
Yeah, I would definitely oppose putting anything about broadband in this. I think it's
I'm not
premature.
I'm gonna keep it general. So let me put some words out here, and you guys can edit.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think? I mean, we're not getting into specific, but I think the principle is just, keep doing what you're doing, basically. Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah. I think it would
Just-
certainly.
it's just I wanted you to understand.
I know
the
it takes
reality of
money,
the
right?
timing.
And a timeline. Yes.
It's that we just won't know until
Yeah.
after this. But
Well, you may want to say continue to work to maximize then,
Right.
since we know that it is.
All right. I think, are we ready to Make a motion, anybody?
I move that we approve the letter.
Second.
Second, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Nay, any nays? No? Looks like it carries.
Huzzah.
I'll check our protocols. In the past, I think we have addressed it to the chair, but then copied all the other board members. I think is how we've done it in the past. I'll see if I can dig out any, or it's possible to address it to all the board members. But I think probably to the chair, I think is. So as long as we have editorial authority to direct it to proper.
Yes.
So great.
All right,
Editorial
sounds
privilege,
good.
as they
Yes,
used to
as they say at the commission.
That was a wonderful principle.
Yes. All right. All right, well, that was the.
Thank you, John. That was a great
Yeah,
letter.
Good job, John. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And I did give you a shout out, Gary, on the minutes there, so good job on the minutes.
Thank you.
Earlier, so we'll get to them here shortly, but in the meantime, I have a relatively short legislative update here. Good. Well, speaking of broadband, just recently saw a story on the city of Cleveland, Tennessee, which is a city of nearly 50,000 near Chattanooga, which Chattanooga, Tennessee. They're considering a proposal to partner with Cleveland Utilities, which is their municipally owned electric company, looking to install a broadband system for all the residents for about $72 million is the report I saw. And this is in a community where, or a market where broadband now says that at least 9 internet services are currently available in the market. They've done some polling and, 97% of the people are interested in seeing something happen on this, but only about 46% said they would definitely take it, and about 50% said, we'll sort of look at it or whatever. So, but Cleveland Utilities has plans to team up with Chattanooga's municipal network, which was one of the first in the nation. It I think, is viewed as one of the more successful municipal broadband networks out there. Chattanooga, though, at the time, I think had very little other privately provided broadband at the time when they launched. So that is one of the big differences for Cleveland here. But it is an interesting development that there's still significant size cities looking to do municipal broadband. Yesterday, the Federal Communications Commission announced that it took decisive actions to shut down an apparent homeowner-focused robocall scam campaign, one that was basically preying on people who may be having trouble with their making their mortgage, and basically, anyhow, the FCC is basically taking a multi-front approach to shut down that scam operation. The Federal Communications has also proposed to update data breach reporting requirements for telecom companies to better protect consumers, increase security, and to reduce the impact of future breaches. So that's my brief legislative report for January. So that brings us to the October 2022 minutes first. They were distributed, and did we have any proposed changes or discussion on them? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to adopt.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes, no nays, I take it. Okay, the ayes, you're abstaining on that one, didn't read them. Okay, the ayes have it. The October minutes are adopted. Okay, that brings us to December's minutes. Thank you again, Gary. That's a good job. And John and Laura provide some input. So any additional comments or edits on the December minutes? Not entertain a motion to adopt those minutes.
So moved.
All right, second? Second. Okay, all in favor? Any nays? Okay, the ayes have it. That brings us to DTS update. Norm, do you want to take it or?
Well, he's probably not more than past. I already mentioned that, so the strategy is gonna come out this week.
Okay, all
So
right.
it's all done. I'm gonna release it to the executive team tomorrow, and then after that, it'll probably the end of the week, it'll get published
Okay,
on
and
public site.
we'll get to see it at some point.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay, great. Okay, I think it's something we'd obviously all be interested in looking at and weighing in on if we have the opportunity. Good, look forward to that. That's good news. Thank you.
Well, Richard, do you have anything?
I will send you tomorrow the 2 bills proposed to allow.
Oh, okay,
tools.
good, thanks.
It'd be, I'm sure, helpful if you contact Buyer and others in the assembly and just say, hey, we are commissioners, we support this.
Yeah.
We'd like to meet more often.
Right,
Just to put some more weight behind it, because we've been lobbying, but
Yeah.
it always helps to hear from everybody.
Right.
As many voices as we can get in favor of this to help the negotiation.
okay, no, good. Appreciate that. And let's see, I guess, I think there were other updates that I'm trying to think.
In the October minutes, you said there's a report coming out on the safety and innovation zone. There was a couple more
Right.
steps to get that done. And you can let us know when it was ready. I'm assuming it's not
Still
ready.
working through.
And same on the broadband feasibility
I
study?
have seen
No,
beginning
oh, the beginning, okay,
of stuff. It is starting to take form.
okay,
Is the best way to describe it. So
all right.
And near and dear to me was that follow-up about the CBRS radio study they did. And you were gonna see if you could come back with a recap of why it failed.
let me double
I'm
check
sure
on
check
that.
on
You
that.
put that in to remind me. I
Okay.
think I forgot to get that. So I'm sorry.
DTS, but is there an active dialogue going on with the schools?
Actually, I met with them today. Met with my counterpart today and his team.
Is Raj still your counterpart over?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, so really it was just to want to build those relationships.
I'm glad to hear
I
it.
was going into
What a
details,
timely
but yeah,
question.
it was a good meeting. He's very excited, I'm being very open with him, new guy on the block, so he's excited about the potential partnership that will develop.
Good.
Yeah, and he's gonna be coming to see us with the CR team, probably in the coming weeks. So
good.
we're off on a good start, but yeah, it's.
I think that was actually something we did request, I think, a few meetings back, was whether there's a
Yes.
new APS liaison to our commission.
And
Because Matt Smith had been, and I think so far, no word, right?
Raj does not have someone he would appoint to come to each meeting.
Right,
But if you would like to invite him to come at any time
Yes, we
for
did
an
bring that up.
update,
I think
he's
that would
happy
be
to
good.
show up and.
Yeah,
do
since
that.
we haven't had any,
No, it's been.
I haven't heard from Raj for some, I think,
Yeah.
since
Well,
I
it's
probably
definitely
might
moving.
have been before
Yeah.
COVID, I think, so.
So he's more in the mindset of coming when invited, not every time.
Right, yeah, no, which is, I think it'd be good to hear from him again, so that'd be great.
Since you mentioned the schools, did you all see the thing about the Arlington Education Association president?
No.
The former president got embezzled in Arlington County for $400,000 and got it locked her up. It's just in the news. So I figured I'd just throw that in there.
Who?
It doesn't say her name. You see, I took a photo snap. Do you know her? Do you know the people, Jackie? This is a former Arlington Education Association president has been charged with 4 counts of embezzlement and is being accused of stealing nearly $500,000. Fox News says, and I'll get you the name. It's probably just Google it. Trust me, it's all over the news.
Wow.
So.
They made a movie about something similar in Long Island.
Okay.
It's a good movie.
What movie was that?
I forget what the name of it was, but it was a school district. Actually, I think it was probably where George Santos, his current district there, was living. just so happens. I think it was on HBO. It had been on HBO. I forget. I don't think they were the ones that produced it, but it might have been an HBO production.
Back on the topic of the APS liaison and Raj, could we ask him to brief us on the APS technology budget as something that might help us become informed that he would know about? I mean, what it is and what the topics are? Is that out of bounds or?
Yes, choice,
Yeah.
yes.
I mean, he
Welcome
seems
to
pretty
ask.
open-minded.
Yeah, I think, and just.
It would be a convenient way of seeing
Yeah,
what's up.
We actually did have a sort of ad hoc joint committee where the chair and vice chair of our commission met with some members of they had sort of an IT related commission, commissioner committee, or I forget exactly. So we did do that for a number of, then sort of halted. Yes. But the whole idea was to try to look for areas of cooperation. In fact, one of the things I think that did come of that, which was useful, was I think DTS was providing computers for joint facilities, joint facilities, and that was something that did, and making sure to use Connect Arlington for the broadband at those facilities. So
I think the thing that's most relevant for our charter is digital equity, right? I think Arlington County Public Schools has its own set of commissions for their own budget stuff.
Right.
And so I think if we're going to get a briefing, it should be on something that's relevant to our.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking so much of what's under consideration as what it is they do.
Yeah.
And maybe, and I just was thinking a budget was a way, probably what they were working on now was a way to see what they're doing and what they're talking about doing.
Yeah. I mean,
not that we'd be reviewing it just as an information source.
Yeah, but during the pandemic, they gave us a briefing on what they were doing in combination with the county on getting kids connected, because there was a lot of kids who did not have connectivity in their home and couldn't participate virtually. And I think
that'd be great.
And
Mr. Broadhurst would be remiss if he didn't remind us about the good work that Comcast Essentials did to get those kids connected. Yes. I'll do your job for you.
That's right. I'm trying to put my newborn baby down, but yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about the APS partnership we did was that ended up connecting all the kids that did not have broadband in the APS. So mostly through the Internet Essentials, but there were other providers that did participate in the program, but Arlington connected all their students through that. So there were no kids left behind, which I think is a pretty cool testament to the partnership that we all formed. So I don't know if there's many school districts that can say that.
Yeah, so I'd be very interested in learning about what they've learned since then about digital equity and what the barriers are and what we might be able to do about it.
Yeah, I think that might be.
I think that would be.
Yeah.
Since it is.
I would also suggest too. I mean, when we formed that partnership, that was before the ACP was out. So now that that's available, I mean, that is also an option for people to use the federal subsidy instead of trying to work through the APS budget. So that's a $30 a month subsidy.
Yeah. So if anybody has other suggestions for what we can ask them, we'll hopefully can send over a list of topics that we're interested in.
All right, no, that sounds good.
Speaking of Connect Arlington, apparently there are new ideas about how to use that in connection with the broadband authority service when and if. And I'm wondering if after the budget dust settles, Frank, John, we might get an update from those folks and maybe even take an ITAC position on broadband authority and advise the board like we're supposed to.
From Mr. Dempsey and ARL Fiber, you could invite him back. I would like to hear from the other side of the coin, though. I think he's definitely got a position
We've heard more than once. So.
We
He
would
has
like-
a position, and I thought we were waiting for the report before we
I think
did
we ought
any
to
next
actually
steps.
See what the feasibility study says first.
Right, that's what I agree. I agree. Before we get any
Before we
more
start-
propaganda, I'd like to see what the study says.
That's just beginning, did I hear someone say?
No, we're starting to see drafts of sections.
Beginning of the end.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Or the end of the beginning.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Churchill.
as far as two sides, Kevin very generously helped the Civic Federation get a spokesperson from the state association who spoke when we did a forum on both with Mr. Dempsey. And I think it's very important that we as a commission not keep inviting Mr. Dempsey by himself. He has a particular position, and that's what he does. He is an advocate for that position. So I think we need to make sure that we have balanced information.
I agree.
That's what
If you have-
John,
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If you have other suggestions for people who we could invite, I was thinking that there's a couple other wireless service commissions that have been formed in the Commonwealth. We might be able to try and invite some of the people who actually manage and run those to try and get us ground truth on what actual implementation looks like.
I think Kevin also would have some suggestions because he's the one who got this great representative.
Yeah, I sure would. I had Ray Lemieux, who is the president of the Virginia Cable Television Association, which is essentially the Broadband Association of Virginia. So I thought he was a good presenter and provided some real kind of facts to really kind of chew on that I thought was necessary for the debate, really.
Yeah, Kevin, if you could send that information over, I'd appreciate it.
yes,
Sure.
thanks, Kevin.
And then, of course, there's our friends in the wireless industry
Yeah, WISPA.
who said nobody needs wires at all.
Well, one of our fellow commissioners has.
So we would
made-
be remiss if we did not hear from that industry as well.
Yes. Yeah, there's a Wireless Internet Service Providers Association.
Yeah, so maybe we can reach out.
And Louise, I noted that Verizon had big fixed wireless broadband subscribers there. And yeah, that was the big driver for them was, although they still did add net FiOS, but the wireless was much bigger.
Let's invite Louise.
Yeah. All right. Okay, Louise. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Louise.
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, I generally am not going to speak to wireless stuff, but yeah, thank you for making the observation.
Yes. It's in the news, ripped from the news today there, I think.
Yep.
Anyway, we will, yeah, I think that would be, if we can, have sort of a balanced presentation, but I think, again, I want to maybe not get out in front of the feasibility report. So.
Yeah, but I'd like to be prepared for it.
Right, that's true, yes, yeah.
And then Jack, as one of his parting gifts to us, made a suggestion about engaging with the bids on an innovation agenda, and I'd sent
Smart
requests
city,
for
yeah.
contact information,
Yes.
and I don't know.
Still percolating.
Okay,
There's been a change in leadership in AED.
right.
I think the new person has been announced, but I don't know if they've started yet. I'm still following that transition. So give me some time while they get the new person in.
Great.
Yeah, are you talking about Arlington Economic Development? Ryan recently started, I think. I think he's on the job already.
Yeah.
in Arlington Economic Development.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting is that they came in prior to the Amazon deal happening. They came and presented the kind of the structure, or what I guess it was already basically implemented, and how it was tied to growth of the population, the employee base down there. Now that employee base is being shrunk, see if it's actually going to impact the financing, the budgeting, the revenue generated back to the county. And I don't know if it's appropriate for them to come back and talk about the good and the bad and the ugly, but it was at one time they they came here and told us all about it. It was really interesting.
Right.
Yeah, I remember
And
that.
I know that was something that Riyadh, I think, talked about, was doing something with them either jointly or having them come make a presentation, so.
I want to see the PhD candidate's dissertation that compares the deal that we had to offer versus the deal that Long Island City offered, which was many, many billions of dollars more in giveaways directly to Amazon
Right.
versus what we did. Shows you how much value we've created here, I think.
I think George Santos was behind that.
But yeah, you know, he did. I heard that. I saw that on his resume.
Guys, you're borderline.
All right, I think that brings us to the, as I discussed with Angela, the Rob Billingsley Memorial Good of the Order, which is basically a catch-all. Does anybody have anything more they want to
I
address?
think we've been in that one for a while.
I think it did sort of morph into that. But we did want to recognize Rob here. Have you had any contact with him at all? No. Yeah, nor have I. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully he's enjoying retirement. That being the case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn. Good meeting, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie,
Good night.
the lady's name is Ingrid Grant. I looked it up. The president that was is arrested.
Grant?
Grant.
Yeah.
She's gone.